Hello everyone, this is JD, Ender of Games here, just doing my playthrough of Final Fantasy VII. I wanted to do Final Fantasy VII first because it's actually my favorite Final Fantasy VII game. What we're looking at here is the intro scene. You might be more familiar with the remake intro. That's the one we've seen more of in more recent times. Final Fantasy VII came out in 1997, and it was one of the first games of its time that was and is like it is. Uh, what I reference whenever I speak to that, one of the things is the whole concept of cross-dressing. The game was rated teen, and that wasn't really something that was, I don't know. I'm from Texas, so maybe it's just that I was from a more conservative state, but that was the tune that I remember. So there's just like so much to talk about with this game, really, right? I think it's not given enough credit. It definitely isn't. But that's not to say that we can't value other people's opinions on the game, right? And I also would like to say that because it's my favorite game, and me saying that it's my favorite game, that doesn't necessarily mean that I think it's the best game. But that's just because I judge a game on different merits than other people do, I'm sure. Doesn't mean that you're right or I'm wrong. Just means we have a difference in opinion. So what I think is kind of interesting here is Barrett calls him a newcomer. That kind of tells me that to someone looking on the outside, he hasn't been there very long, right? One might think even hasn't been there longer than today. This could be his first job. I actually think it is his first job with them. The reason why I'm bringing this up though is because there's a scene a little bit later where Barrett and Cloud are talking, and I don't know, I get a little bit more out of that, right? Like maybe Cloud and Barrett know about each other because of Tifa. Oh, but that's all we know. So I was really torn on whether or not I should like just shorten these videos to just the game clips, because those are actually the type of videos that I actually want to make. I guess at least as far in terms of making videos and content for the next gen games, you know, like PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 games. Uh, there are a lot of areas that can be difficult at times, and just when you need the resources to get past that area, they're not always there, right? I mean, we all have different interests and different likes, so I would just like to bring to YouTube and to my viewers, all of you, real short, simple guides in the things that I like to play. I also plan on doing other things though. I got a very big passion for classic games. Um, yeah, I mean, Resident Evil's a title I plan on doing some playthroughs for, some complete playthroughs for. That includes, you know, getting the mercenary modes, all the costumes, all the weapons, where they're at, how to beat the bosses, how to knife the bosses, just all that kind of stuff. Silent Hill, that's another title. I really am interested in the prospect of Devil May Cry because there's a lot to talk about with Devil May Cry. The story was never really very obvious about what was going on until DMC Devil May Cry, which we've also found out is not considered part of the series of Devil May Cry. It is a separate, standalone, one-time thing. So the hopeful message given to us was not for DMC. Devil May Cry. It's part of the title, so that's why I always say Devil May Cry after I say DMC. So something I always thought was really odd in Final Fantasy games, and I think they fixed it in 8 for a little bit, but they kind of went back to it in 9 and 10. It's how Barret just kind of ran into Cloud and disappeared. But whenever they're having a conversation, Barret is present again. I'm sure that's not really part of the game, but it's just kind of a mechanism of the design. And this is where you get your first item, the Phoenix Down. I would get this now, because after we do this, you won't be able to get it later, and I don't know, if you're feeling like having a reckless playthrough, you might need a Phoenix Down. Here we go. Barret steps out. Oh, there again. So we see Barret here talking about saving the planet, right? And saving it from this corporation and this world that's built on using its life energy to power our entire civilization, or their entire civilization. But what do we see him doing in Advent Children? I just want to point that out. He goes from being an activist like an environmental activist to an oil miner. I don't know. I don't really get that. That was kind of odd. It might be one of those loopholes that people point out and don't like about it. I actually have always liked Barret. Maybe it's just me. I liked the fact that he had a gun arm. Like it was part of his arm, and then it was also a gun. Because I was really obsessed with a lot of anime, and Ghost in the Shell was one of them, and I always really liked the concept of cybernetics, which grew into a fascination with transhumanism, which also increased as I grew up playing the Deus Ex games. I wasn't too crazy about Vampire Wars or the second one. I haven't really been up on the Deus Ex communities recently. I was gonna do that whenever I got into my playthroughs for that and my content for that, but I'm pretty sure nobody recognizes Deus Ex 2 as an actual Deus Ex canonized game. And here we have our second item we're picking up, a potion. Which, I don't know, if you want to get all the experience here, you can. But there are other areas of the game where you can farm out a lot more experience and get, especially with the ×3 here. Uh, I feel like you'd be spending less time if you did it a little bit later. That's just me though. That's why here in a little bit you'll see me actually running from battles. Well, that and because of the timer, but so a little interesting thing that happens right here. Here's your third item. It is a restore materia, which is actually separate from the cure materia. We'll go over materia a little bit later. I'm actually gonna have just like a whole video dedicated to materia and all of the materia and how to make the master materia, because there are 3 different types of materia. But right here, let's get back to this. Watch out. This isn't just a reactor. Who do you think that is? There's only one person it could be. Or it could be 2 people. It could be the villain of the game. We don't really have anything to point us into which direction it is, like who it is. But it could also be Sephiroth, right? I mean, he's in a Mako reactor. Sephiroth is encased in Mako. I mean, there could be some properties of Mako that increases, like, I don't know, telekinetic, no, telepathic communication between the 2 of them. We really don't know. That's just speculation. Really, and I think that's what a lot of people have problems with Final Fantasy. I mean, like, that's the problem that a lot of people have problems with, is the speculation. But that leaves a lot of room for mystery. So I didn't read the little subtext box there at the beginning of this fight when I first played it. But you don't want to really attack the guard scorpion while its tail is above its head. It shoots lasers at you. One of the things I always liked about Final Fantasy VII was the giant sword, as well as the gun arm. And then it just kind of has this way of sort of wanting, like, just drawing out this like curiosity in you. It's just like, this is a really weird world, right? There's magic, there's motorcycles, there's soldiers that use swords, but soldiers that use guns. There's science and spirit. There's just a lot of really weird, interesting concepts here. And here I am, I'm running, just hightailing it. I don't even have the ×3 on at this point, because if you did have the ×3, it would actually speed the timer up. That's a save point. I'm just kind of running past that, because you don't really need it at this point in the game. But I mean, if you like to save, go ahead and save. You could hit it on the way in as well. I suggest hitting it on the way in if you just like playing around with games. So another point you don't want to miss right here, because I remember doing this in my first time. You don't want to forget Jessie, because if you can't tell because of the polygons, she's stuck and looks like that grating right there. See? Her leg got stuck. And then she jumps over you somehow. But you see her trip later. I don't know, it's just kind of weird, right? I mean, she's oddly human. And that was another thing that you see that you don't often see in video games with this game, right? Like, the characters are human. I mean, I guess that's sort of Final Fantasy's theme, because it's always about the characters, but you know. But who, if they weren't human, how would we relate to them? I think that's what we're going to see a lot of in the near future, where if we're allowed to, I guess whether or not we're allowed to be considered human if we're cybernetically enhanced. I want to say yes. I want to say yes, because if you look for it, there's actually legislation that might or might not still be around, that actually designates you as a disabled individual if you're not cybernetically enhanced by a certain point. But we're not here to talk politics. We're here to talk Final Fantasy VII and how to do the playthrough. Again, you'll notice Jesse had fell, but at this point in the game, you don't actually have to control it. That's actually part of the cutscene, so you don't wear your controllers down. And as you see, that is the North Reactor exploding. It was a complete and total victory on the part of Avalanche. And everyone made it out. So this is why I don't think that they're new. Cloud might be new. Maybe he's dropped by looking for work. There wasn't any work because Barrett didn't want to pay Cloud for some reason. And I think that conflict there is actually due to Barrett's feelings for Tifa and him not really understanding the nature of Cloud and Tifa's relationship. See, look, if it's about your money, wait till we get back. I would not be very confident if I had completed a task that I had, agreed to do for money and I wasn't getting my money for that. That would be an issue for me. Look at this place. It's a riot. It's a mess, right? But if you want to go on a date with Aerith, you want to pick nothing. Hey. You don't want to be concerned for her safety. Alright? You want to ask her about her flowers. Which, I mean, it's not a terrible thing, but, there's kind of explosions happening. I'm sure security forces are scrambling to locate the different members of Avalanche that they've collected the security footage on so far. But here I am, getting a flower from the flower girl, Aerith Gainsborough. So a lot of the, I guess, like earlier strategy guides and media and everyone, at first it all showed Eris, and I actually have a copy of the strategy guide because I always bought the strategy guides because I always wanted to try and draw the characters. Thinking about it, I haven't tried to draw Final Fantasy characters in a really long time. I think I might enjoy that, but that's a conversation for another time. So Avalanche, protectors of the planet. That's them. People know about them, obviously, right? Don't do the ×3 at this point, because in my first video I made attempting to do this project, I had it on, and this is not a good place you want to have it on. Unless, again, you want the experience. You do get to that level 99 faster. You get the experience sooner. But again, I've advised, or at least suggested, if I can make that recommendation, just wait until you get to the crater, honestly. You can get to the crater using materia in this game. Yeah, it's really easy. It's like a piece of cake. Maybe even like a cake ingredient, like the baking powder or the flour. Not even necessarily. There will be some intimidating enemies, like the weapons, but won't be anything too serious. So I just needed to get my charger there. So, as we can see, Avalanche has a victory here. Their mission was brilliant. I mean, they got in, they got out, hardly any casualties. I don't think there were any casualties, unless you want to consider the random encounters that are really just part of the game mechanics to give you battles. Um, I timed it though. They were in and out in under 15 minutes. So why isn't Barrett like giving him a pep talk? You know, good job, guys. Drinks on me tonight. Drinks on the house. Stay a while. You know? No. What do we have from Barrett? He's just his butt hurt. I think this is because Jesse witnessed Cloud turning Barrett away. Like, hey dude, I want my money. I want to get out of here. And that's it. But Barrett wants him. Barrett was vulnerable in front of Jesse. Jesse and Biggs are obviously close. I think Biggs was planning to overthrow Avalanche and take Barrett's place. Yeah. Again, just speculation. We'll never know. The reason why I think that, though, and you'll see here in a little bit, you can trigger an event where Biggs is trash talking Barrett in his sleep. Here in a little bit, you'll see. It's right here where this punk looking couple is, right here. Got the spiky hair. Wearing black. Wristbands. And so they even incorporated like culture into this game in certain ways, I guess you can argue. Not argue, but make points for. I don't like arguing. There's like no point in it. No one's listening to anyone. Everyone's getting upset. Let's just have fun, you know? We gotta deal with enough of all that awfulness like outside in the world among the other problems we have no controls over. Like, why don't we just, whenever we do have control over it, be okay with it? You know, just say that's not cool. That hurt me. My bad. Kind of getting off on a tangent again. Another cool thing that kind of makes this my favorite game is just the immersion. And if you think about it, it doesn't have to do a lot to immerse you, right? Because if you're walking around interacting with every NPC character because you want to know what each one is going to contribute to this experience, then I feel like the designers did their game. I mean, they made their game fantastic. They did their job wonderfully. And considering that they used scraps of another game that wasn't as successful, which I mean, I feel like it was successful in its own way, but it's considered like they're apples and oranges, right? Because one of them is in another genre that isn't polygons. And apparently polygons are what make the world go round, okay? I mean, actually I'm really interested in seeing this story re-envisioned. Like, I honestly would just be okay with them redoing the cutscenes, like in between the gameplay, but I mean, they got this whole new generation that they're trying to reach out to, which is kind of unfortunate, right? Because like I played Final Fantasy 13. If I'm gonna do the Final Fantasy series, I'm gonna have to do 13. I have to say though, I'm not gonna make those clips very long. I'm not gonna do like complete playthroughs or spend very much time on the story, even though it has 3 games. That's not what Final Fantasy has ever been about for me. I feel like 13 is kind of a hallway. And I don't really like talking about like the negative aspects of things. So my point I'm getting to here is, it wasn't my game, right? You know, maybe they were reaching out to like a different generation. So I went out and I bought that game, and I played it. I almost beat it. The reason why I didn't beat it actually was because I lost my save files. But I gave it to my little sister, who was 12 or 13 at the time, and she didn't like it. I mean, she's not really into like real hard games, you know, like I am, but that says something to me. Uh, that just the games are changing, you know, and they're not for the people that kind of helped pave the way for what they are now. I mean, they got like little throwbacks, they got little Easter eggs they throw in there, but nothing. Here we go. Don't be so damn big, Barrett. Snooze. It's not a lot, right? I mean, it's just little. It's a little inference that we get there, but it's something fun to play with. So he refers to the city as floating, but at the end of this video, there's a man that we interact with that is very interested in a pillar, and now Barrett's referring to it as a pizza. So from Jessie's explanation, she was saying that all of the cities are on the separate, like the different plates, right? And I think there are 8 plates because there are 8 reactors. So I think, because the rest of the world is, I mean, it's real scattered, right? I mean, if you look at our planet, we see, I mean, what do we see? We see cars and highways and airplanes and ships and helicopters and trains all the time, everywhere. But all of those things are just in Midgar, right? So I think, like, I really don't even believe that these people are originally from here. I think Midgar was a space station. Because I mean, if you think about it, just like the architecture and just everything about Midgar really isn't anything like the other places on this planet. It's all really different. And I think that's interesting. Or it could imply, you know, since Shinra is kind of like an analogy for corporations, that they're hoarding everything. It seems to be a theme with a lot of stories nowadays. But also explain the whole Turks thing. The Turks are the private sector. Referring to the Turks in the game. They're like the Men in Black. But I feel like men isn't. Actually, I really like Human in Black. You know, they're all wearing really nice suits because there's Elaine, and she is not a man. I mean, unless that's what she identifies as, but we don't really know that. There is the train graveyard that these two are talking about right here. I don't get the WoW thing. Like, I really don't know what's going on right there. Somebody's trying to do something they're not supposed to. So there's the team. They're scattering. Oh, look. There are the Shinra guards right there. They were right there, but everyone was kind of just like, oh, no one saw us. Are you sure? Are you really sure? There he is. The man with the pillar. I think he's taking notes. I'm gonna say he's taking notes. I mean, he sounds like he's obsessed with architecture. He enjoys looking at large supportive structures, I guess. I'm actually getting to the end of the video here, so yeah, I'd really like to hear what you think. This was really not typically how I want most of the videos are gonna go. I just really wanted to kind of get you an idea of who I am and what I'm about, and the titles I like. If you have any titles you think I might like, uh, let me know in the comments. Also, please hit that subscribe button and listen and keep an eye out for my other videos coming out. You can also follow me on Twitter, all one word, JD, the Ender of Games. And yeah, let me know what you think. I'm really excited to hear your thoughts. And also, if you have any thoughts to add to all of the speculation about this game, or if you just want to joke around, go ahead and leave that in the comments as well. I'm really interested in knowing, because I've only talked to the people that I grew up with about this game. So, what do you think?